Thank you very much. Good evening.
It's great to be here.
So these are days of lots of work, campaigning.
Something happening? I wasn't aware of it.
By the way, tell us about the deadline. By tomorrow, you have to give all the details.
Yeah, you have to submit the list of all the different parties, and so it's very hectic, and it's going to be a pretty intense 24 hours.
Okay, so for our audience here, and especially also for the viewers abroad, give us a few words about the new party. You know, looking back at that Saturday night when you declared there's a new party, you're leaving Beit Yehudi, are there any regrets?
Quite the contrary. The Hayamin HaChadash, the new Yamin party, is the actual right of Israel. It's the real right wing of Israel, in the sense that we're very clear about everything. We will never give up 1 centimeter of land of the state of Israel, period. We oppose releasing terrorists. We are very strong on judicial conservatism. Right after 40 years of the Likud reign, which allowed the judicial system sort of to, let the leash open and run the country and govern the country, our thesis is very simple. The government needs to govern, and the judges need to judge.
All these things are opposed to the left, or also opposed to the ruling party, the Likud?
Well, it's the Likud who gave up land in Israel, in Hebron, in the disengagement. It was the Likud. It was the Likud who recognized the demand of a Palestinian state in the Bar Ilan speech. It's the Likud who released over 1,000 murderers in the Shalit deal. It's the Likud who, under its term, the Aharon Barak judicial revolution happened. So yeah, it's opposed to everyone. We're the real right. We're the real McCain, the real McCoy. McCoy, not McCain, but also.
Now, one of your main targets, as we're speaking now, the Chosen Israel party is having their big event. The former chief of staff, Benny Gantz, we see that he's one of your main targets in the campaign. Why is that?
Well, he's a good guy. He's a mensch. He loves Israel no less than I. He's a left-wing Zionist, which is okay, but he's left-wing and he's sort of trying to pretend he's not, which is pathetic. Because I believe that one should say what he believes in, and one should do what he says. And so it's sort of this mishmash of sort of a Siamese twin party, where
that's even their statement. There's no right and no left, and you're saying there is right.
Of course there is. Of course there is. I mean, just give me an answer. Are you gonna give up land of Israel or not?
So one of his
are you gonna release terrorists?
So one of
his
people says yes, and another person in his party says no.
Right. So it's sort of a confused party, but that's their problem. We intend, in the era after Netanyahu decides to step down, we intend to become the leading party of Israel, and I intend to become the prime minister after Netanyahu.
You're the Minister of Diaspora Affairs. What's the mission? What is the next stage in the next government regarding our audience, Jewish diaspora?
Well, there's a two-pronged mission. First of all, I think that Jews ought to live in Israel, and Jews should make aliyah. My mom and dad, who were born and grew up in California, they made aliyah out of Zionism because this is the Jewish home. This is the Jewish state. Jews should live in the Jewish land. That being said, there's a lot of Jews who have decided to live where they do, be it in the United States, where there's roughly 6 million Jews, and the rest of the world, where there's about another 2 million. I think that the Jewish state has a responsibility and a bond towards a Jew wherever she or he may live, even if they decide to stay in Brazil, to stay in France, to stay in Canada or whatever. And that's why, as Minister of Diaspora, we've invested hundreds of millions of shekels in remarkable programs, bringing kids over, like Taglit Birthright, which I'm chairman of, like Taglit for Moms, which is sort of my baby or my pet project, study on campus, because here's the goal, that every Jew in the world should be connected to his Judaism, should be connected to the state of Israel, even if they don't live in Israel.
Okay, let's stick to international news and what we're seeing with the Polish crisis. The Poles, all the terminology. How do you see this?
Well,
you were on your way to Poland. It was a year ago, and you were part of the tension.
So I'd say this: Poland in 2019 is a friend of Israel, and we need friends, and we value that friendship. But you can only build a friendship for the future based on truth of the past. And the reality of the past is a very complex reality. Poland was not in existence during the Second World War. There was no Polish sovereignty. They were a victim of Nazi Germany. They were under German occupation. However, it's a fact of history that many Poles aided, supported in the murder of Jews. There was anti-Semitism prior to the Shoah. There was murder and anti-Semitism during the Shoah. There was murder and anti-Semitism after the Shoah. My wife's grandfather, his name is Eli Rodzinik, just one short story if I may. In 1939, September, he was, I believe, about 16 years old. He had a mom and two brothers. And for about 4 or 5 years, he hid them. He had a Polish face, and he knew fluent Polish. He didn't have an accent, so he could pretend to be a non-Jew. So he went to work every day with farmers, and he hid his family, his mom and two brothers. His dad was taken immediately and murdered in the forest, and every month he moved them. A few weeks before the Soviet Union released his area, one day he was on his way back to the hide place of his family, and a bunch of Polish teenagers were laughing. He said, "We killed your family." He ran to the hiding place, and he found his mom and two brothers dead, murdered by Poles. That's a fact of history. So you don't build a joint future by erasing the past.
Thank you very much. Just one last question, if you may. In the security arena, how do you define the Yamina Chadash agenda, maybe also as opposed to the other parties that are out there on the right?
Well, when we see an enemy approaching, we kill him. That's what we do. You stop your enemy before he hits you. You get your enemy at 3 in the morning in his bed before he runs in Tel Aviv and blows up. We're very tough on security. We think that there's a true opportunity for peace. Peace you do with an enemy after you defeat that enemy. And you see Europe, after 1945, there was full peace because there was a clearly defeated enemy. In this case, unfortunately, we've got a bunch of Arab states and Muslim states. Some of them are friendly with us, some do not recognize us, and some are fighting us, like Hezbollah, like Hamas. There's only one way to achieve peace, for these guys to realize that we're not going anywhere. We're here forever and ever because we're always going to be stronger. And if we do that, we will achieve peace in our generation.
Education Minister and Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Naftali Bennett, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank Uzi Baruch, who's a remarkable leader of Arutz Sheva, doing a great job. Can tell you that this website is one of the leading websites in Israel, so you're getting very high quality news. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.